started to slowly walk at us. The closer it got, the bigger it seemed to get, and soon I realized that it was not a coyote, but some sort of creature with some long wire-like hair, red all over its face. It was out of nowhere. My brother dropped his slingshot, grabbed me, and started bolting towards the house with our cousin following behind, screaming at us to run. I can't remember how long it took us to actually make it inside that house, but I was so happy to make it inside. Whatever that thing was, it stayed outside watching us. It wasn't until our aunt saw it outside did it leave. My aunt thought it was just a coyote, but my cousin was sure it was a skinwalker. Our uncle
No, you dummy.
leave. My aunt thought it was just a coyote, but my cousin was sure it was a skinwalker. Our uncle sided with him on whatever it was. My uncle was a Navajo and didn't joke about this stuff, but my brother, my aunt, and I weren't. My cousin, who grew up learning about these legends, kept telling him that it was a skinwalker until he was bawling his eyes out. Our uncle decided to believe him and fortify that house the best he could that night. The next day, we went outside and found all the chickens torn apart outside of their pens. My parents came that same day to pick up my brother and I, mainly because our uncle was calling them frantically and they worried about our safety. I rarely keep in touch with those relatives anymore due to my family moving all those years ago, and whenever I do, we never bring up the incident anymore, out of fear that it may have actually been a skinwalker.
Okay.
Number 12. When I was 20 years old and my brother was 15, our parents were out of town. My brother had some friends over one night. As I walked out of the door to pick up food, I overheard them talking about the supernatural. What I didn't know was one of them had brought over a spirit board. While I was gone, they decided to call on the spirit. After a few times of asking for a spirit to appear to them, they got their wish. The lights in the house went out. A low, eerie laugh consumed the whole house, and not one of the 7 could move. They all say they could see a shadow circling the table, but the light from the neighbor's house was dense. All of them knew they should run, yet they couldn't even move a finger. No one could speak, scream, or cry. As I pulled into the driveway, the 7 teenagers came running out of the house screaming and crying. They reached me quickly, but as they were running to me, I saw the blinds in the living room pull apart in the middle aggressively. Before I could process what I had seen, all of them were trying to tell me what had just happened. The front door suddenly slammed, knocking the already torn blind to the floor. Although you think that it would be the end of the story, but it's not. Someone still had to go back in the house, or at least lock the door. The 17s weren't an option, and I was the only adult in sight. I had my brother go with me since this is partly his fault. We walked to the front door slowly, but both of us were breathing hard and I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. As I put my fingers on the handle of the door, I thought about it like ripping off a Band-Aid. Just do it fast. I slung the door open with one swoop. The smell was unimaginable, and it hit us like a slap in the face. The odor was a mixture of flowers and something rotten. It took us a moment to overcome the horrific smell. Before entering the house, I tried to turn on the lights by the door. The outside light and the hall light turned on right away. I shouldn't have been surprised to see that the house was in shambles if I hadn't seen the blind rip open or see the door slam on its own. I would have thought my brother had entertained a wild party. As we entered the house, I began telling the entity in a loud, demanding voice, "Leave this home. You're not welcome here." As I spoke, I walked to where the spirit board was on the floor. When I picked up the board, I said, "This conversation has ended. Goodbye." The front door slammed on its own again, but the odor was gone. We cleaned up, and honestly, we never told my parents.
Number 11. I was dating this one girl, a long-distance relationship. She lived in Washington State while I lived in California. Long-distance relationships usually involved the usual: FaceTiming, phone calls, Skype, etc. About 7 months into the relationship, I had a dream. The only member of her family I've seen on FaceTime was her cousin Zoe. In the dream, I was watching over her while she played in a bouncy house. Suddenly, she stopped and pointed. I looked into the direction she pointed. There was an old male, so old that gravity took a toll on his wrinkly skin. I locked eyes with him and I felt his piercing blue eyes freeze my body in place. He raised his hand from the resting place on his rocking chair. He pointed at me. His mouth opened wide as a sharp screeching noise came out of him. I woke up in a cold sweat, texting my girlfriend telling her the dream. She was shocked. She texted back, "You saw Grandpa?" She later explained that her late grandpa's appearance perfectly fit my dream. What shocked us both was that I've never seen a picture of her grandfather, let alone knew that he passed away. He would always stay in his rocking chair and look out the window during his final days, she said. Can ghosts communicate through dreams? Can I see ghosts? Are ghosts real? I don't know if any of these will ever be answered, but I hope one day I can understand.
Number 10. So this happened about 2 years ago, almost 3, when I was a freshman in high school. I never had much faith in the afterlife or the paranormal. Anyways, I never had much of a hard time sleeping. However, during the second week of my winter break, it was becoming really difficult to sleep. I remember one night I had woken up to a loud bang. At first I thought it was a shot, which wouldn't have been surprising since I live in a rough neighborhood in East Los Angeles. But then I heard another bang that came from outside my door. I slowly made my way out of bed and I looked over at my alarm clock, which read 2:53 a.m. I thought maybe it could be my mom or my older brother. But then I remembered my mom was working until 8 o'clock and my brother was at his girl's house. With a racing heart, I grabbed the bat that I hid under my bed and I waited, thinking it could be an intruder. I held my breath waiting for another sound, but nothing happened for the rest of the night. The next day I told my family about it and they just joked about it. They joked that it was the devil checking on me and ultimately they paid no mind to it. It wasn't until around midnight that I heard a bang again. This time I was awake and I rushed to where I heard the sound, which led me to my bathroom. I opened the bathroom door and I looked inside only to see nothing. I jumped when I heard the sound of glass breaking. It came from my kitchen and I saw that at least 4 plates had fallen off of the cabinet and were shattered on the floor. It scared me because those plates couldn't have fallen on their own because there was a latch that kept the cabinet shut. I inspected the cabinet to see if the latch was broken, but it wasn't. The activity continued throughout the rest of the break, but most of it was childish. There would be knocks in one room and then another, like if someone was messing with me. I would have my hair tugged and some mornings, old family pictures would be broken. My mom even said that she heard a little kid crying when she was in the house alone. Then one day she revealed to me that the previous owners of the house had a 3-year-old son who had passed away in a tub when the mother had left him alone to answer the phone. After the boy's passing, the parents had sold the house to my family and were never heard from again. At first I didn't believe it, but then I remembered the knocking coming from the bathroom. Needless to say, it pushed me to believe in the afterlife more, and now the activity doesn't bother me anymore. To me, it's just a little boy who doesn't know he's passed and just wants to play. I hope that I'm able to catch some activity on video, and I'll post it.
Alright, so
I'll start.
Oh,
do you want to go first?
no, I don't. You go.
Number 9. My whole life I'd had paranormal experiences, so over the years I've grown used to them. One particular paranormal experience is something that gives me nightmares to this day. When I was between the ages of 5 and 11, my family lived in a small apartment building. My sister and I shared one bedroom, while my brother had the other. Both my parents slept in the living room downstairs. I would go downstairs every night to get water or a snack if I was hungry, and I never got scared because my parents were just feet from the kitchen sleeping. I remember that night I woke up in the middle of the night as usual and went downstairs to the kitchen to get water. Our kitchen had an odd half wall, so even if you were feet from it, you could still see the whole kitchen. I remember I had passed my parents who were sleeping at the time and made it just feet from the kitchen where I had been able to see the sink and window just above it. I didn't even make it to the kitchen. In front of the sink where the window was shining in lights from outside, I saw a dark-haired woman looking out the window. I remember standing there for what felt like hours, but it only lasted about 10 seconds. The woman just stood there not moving for a few more seconds, and before I could even think of what to do next, this woman started bending weirdly, like her bones were breaking but no sound was audible. I stared at her not knowing what to do at the time. Before I could react, the woman turned completely and looked towards me. Her face was completely blacked out. I ran past my parents and back up to my bedroom. Let's just say I got no sleep that night. Since then, my family has moved from that apartment complex, and to this day, 10 years later, I can still see that woman so clearly in my head, and I hope I never encounter her again.
Number 8. About a couple of months ago, around October, I wanted to make a Halloween video with some friends. We wanted to film a short film about a psycho in the woods. We went to my local woods where we were looking for a good spot to film. We ended up going down a small ravine to film. Everything was normal until we noticed some weird objects above the part of the ravine, so we went to go check it out. We climbed uphill from the ravine, where we found a small shelter, something that a man built to sleep in. Around the small shelter, there were dolls hung around it, deformed and almost satanic-like. The dolls were really unpleasant and made us uncomfortable. However, it looked good for our film, so we started filming there until we kept hearing noises around us, and our anxiety was getting too high, so...
At T-Mobile, we believe you should get more. That's why we merged with...
Christmas is a time of year to be happy, merry, and joyful, at least for most people. I love spreading cheer to family and friends on Christmas. My joyful mood usually translates to my coworkers as well. I work in customer service, which many people know can be a nightmare at Christmas time, so it helps to try and stay upbeat. Well, on this specific Christmas Eve, customers were doing some final Christmas shopping before Christmas Day. Right at the end of my shift, I cashed out a pretty normal-looking guy. I would say the average height range of like 5'7" and maybe 150 pounds. He had parted black hair, glasses, and was probably in his mid-40s. He was buying some fairly normal stuff and not really anything Christmas-related. The whole interaction was mostly friendly until the very end when I said something I now wish I didn't say. I ended our transaction by saying in my bubbly voice, "Thank you, sir, and have a happy holiday." He stopped and turned back to me and said, "What did you just say?" I responded nervously and semi-confused, "Have a happy holiday?" He stormed back to my register and screamed at the top of his lungs, "It's Merry Christmas." I backed away in a slight panic and just said, "Okay, sir, I'm sorry." He walked away mumbling to himself, but I could tell he was furious by his recent actions. For a couple of minutes, I kept staring outside, and I could see him pacing in front of the store, still seemingly mumbling to himself. A few people actually came into the store and said that there was someone outside talking about Christmas and Jesus' birthday. I began to panic, thinking this guy was going to come into the store again or wait until I got out and try to follow me home or something. Well, luckily for me, my boyfriend worked at the same store, and he was driving us to my mom's house for a Christmas Eve party at the end of the night. We left shortly after 6, and at first I was relieved when I didn't see the man outside. We were almost to my boyfriend's car when we saw the man running after us from the side of the store. My boyfriend opened up the backseat door so I could hop in, and he stood there in front of the car. My boyfriend said in a stern voice, "Hey, is there a problem, man?" The man, still in a rage, said, "That lady has no respect for Jesus or Christmas, and she should be punished." My boyfriend, confused, told the man to back away and leave us alone, and the crazy man actually tried to jump past my boyfriend to get into the car to punish me or whatever that meant. My boyfriend slammed the guy down to the ground and got in the car, and we drove off. Like fools, we decided on the drive not to call 911.
Lucid Spark is the virtual whiteboard you need to bring your best ideas to light. It's
Because we didn't want to bother them on Christmas Eve, so we thought, and just wanted to forget the event. On December 26th, we did alert our store manager of the situation so we could call the police if the guy ever came back into the store. I still work at the store, and almost a year later, I have never seen that man again. I can say for certainty that I will never say Happy Holidays again. I love Christmas. It has always been a great day to spend with my family, and call me cheesy, but I really just enjoy the spirit of the day. My whole family and I had just finished a beautiful Christmas dinner, and most of my family went into the living room to wait for me to exchange presents. Christmas Day was when we did presents with the grandparents and cousins. I was in the kitchen washing dishes with my brother Jake and cousin Teresa. While I was washing dishes, I looked out the window and thought I noticed somebody out by my shed. I didn't really let it bother me because I figured it was some kind of shadow from the tree. After a few more minutes of washing, I noticed the figure again, and this time I was definitely sure that it was a man. I told my brother and cousin to look out the window, but don't make it obvious. They noticed it as well. We all talked quietly among ourselves, trying to figure out what we should do. Our thought was that this man was technically trespassing in my backyard, so we decided to call the police. They told us that they would send somebody out to take a look right away. Trying not to panic and hoping everything stayed how it was until the police showed up was not easy. The kids started to get restless as well, as the grandparents were wondering what was the holdup. My parents knew something wasn't right, but they did a really great job of keeping everybody in the living room. After a couple of minutes, we noticed the man starting to approach my house, and he wasn't alone. There were 3 more men that came out from behind the shed. They started to surround my house. Confused and terrified, we tried to remain calm. What happened next was nothing shy of a Christmas miracle. The flashing lights appeared, and we heard a minor altercation outside of the house. The officers were able to catch one of the men, while the other 3 fled. While somehow not bringing a lot of attention to my family inside, I spoke with the cop outside and gave my statement. Well, turns out my cousin Teresa had broken up with her boyfriend several months before Christmas, and the man they detained was, in fact, her ex-boyfriend. Teresa had started seeing somebody new, and this man figured the new boyfriend would be at the house for the Christmas party. Her ex and his friends clearly planned on attacking him, or at least putting a good scare into him, so I thought. Until the officer informed us that my cousin's ex was equipped with a knife and brass knuckles in his back pocket. Luckily, nobody got hurt, and I'm not actually sure what kind of trouble he got into for this. The rest of the night went smooth, and we opened presents. But I had an uneasy feeling for the rest of the night that the other men might return and try to finish the plan they started. Being the father of 2 small children, Christmas Eve is usually a very early night for my family because the kids wake me up around 6 a.m. for Santa's presents. At about 10 p.m., I got into bed with my wife and started to fall asleep. Shortly after this, I was jolted awake by our doorbell. I jumped out of bed and ran down the stairs, more angry than anything else that some idiot rang my doorbell on Christmas Eve after 11 p.m. with 2 small children asleep. Without even thinking, I opened the door and said, "What do you want?" It was an old man with a dirty black beard. He was wearing a red jacket and red sweatpants. His face was filthy. He said in a slow and haunting voice, "Please, Let old Kris Kringle come inside and get warm. I slammed the door in his face and said through the door, If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the cops. The man was quiet for a moment, and then knocked on the door slowly. I yelled one more time, trying not to wake my kids. Do you want to be arrested? He then started to bang on my door vigorously and relentlessly. My wife then ran down the stairs, who I might add is a third-degree black belt, and asked what was going on. I told her to call the police and then make sure the kids were all right. The man must have heard me on the phone because he stopped knocking. I could hear him muffled through the door say, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And then he laughed as he walked away. After feeling a slight moment of relief thinking this ordeal was over, I decided to wait at the front door until the police showed up. A cop showed up several minutes later, and I explained the situation to him. He stated that he had no other calls or
Mom, why do we always come here for the holidays?
similar reports like this tonight, and that's when we heard my wife scream from the kids' room. The police officer headed up the stairs first, with me right behind him. The man was trying to break into the window where my daughters slept. The cop immediately tased and arrested the man, who just kept saying, Don't worry, I'm Santa Claus, over and over again. The situation was never really explained to me. Apparently he was just a homeless man who was wandering around. The cops said that he may have been possibly on something. Either way, I never sleep quite right on Christmas anymore. First, let me say I come from a somewhat unconventional family. We are all a little weird or wacky in our own way. Sometimes we get along great, and sometimes not so much. On Christmas Day, my parents and I usually stay home and don't see any of our extended family. However, this past year, we decided to go to my grandmother's house. This is a little different because my grandmother and I have a very rocky relationship with one another. I have overheard my dad mentioning stories about my grandmother and my now deceased grandfather that bordered on child abuse. I remember being really young, and my grandparents screaming at me for the smallest things, and my parents abruptly taking me home. But anyway, I'm in my 20s now, and my father decided since it was Christmas, we could give spending the holiday at my grandma's a chance. The day started out pretty uneventful and, dare I say, pleasant. A lot of conversations and happy memories. My dad and aunt were reminiscing about snowball fights and such from their childhood. There was a healthy conversation about politics, which I thought for sure would change the mood, but surprisingly did not. After several hours and a nice dinner, everyone made their way to the living room for coffee and to just hang out on the couches. I left my coffee on the kitchen table and made my way to the back of the house where the only bathroom was. I washed my hands, fixed my shirt, and walked out of the bathroom. When I walked into the hallway, I was greeted by my grandma, who was just standing there staring at me. I said,
Brendan is staring at him. I feel smothered by him.
Do you think your parents are gonna keep splitting?
check this out. We're breaking all the rules, anything we choose. Verify, live and prove. I got something new.
Attention. The Object 96 has escaped. I repeat, the Object 96 escaped. All personnel to the rendezvous point immediately. Attention. All exits from the 5th level was closed. Please everyone who remained at the same level, keep calm and wait for help.
We only got 2 subscribers in this stream. Are you kidding me? Oh, my cousin got 232. Yay. Not know this is dead beta. Oh, dirty. But that's even called duty. Well, I guess I'm gonna call it quits. Getting late. It's almost 12 a.m. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video stream. Actually gonna be privated after this.